all students, welcome to the VAIR community. This is a parallel where we take a look at one particular set from every CAT previous year's paper and we try and decipher it, we try and solve the entire set. And there's one particular set in every video, so make sure that you follow us to keep yourself updated on every single set that we release every week. And if you like it, then you can share it with your friends as well. Let's get on with this set. So today's set is from CAT 2021. It was from the first slot of CAT 2021, which was kind of rumored to be one of the tougher LRDI sections of the lot. Let's take a look at what the set has to say for us. So this is the information that has come forward from the set. Let's take a look at what it says. So we do have a journal plans to publish 18 research papers written by 8 authors, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H, in 4 issues of the journal scheduled in January, April, July, and October. So let's pick up the important information from every line. We have 18 research papers. We have 8 authors, A to H, and there are 4 issues scheduled in Jan, April, July, and October. For anyone who's not aware of it, research paper is released once every month according to this. So that's why you have 4 issues, one for January, one for April, one for July, and one for October. The authors are so-and-so. And there are a total of 18 papers that have been released. Each of the research papers was written by exactly one of the 8 authors. So every research paper has only one author. You cannot have a combined or a joint authorship. A and B both can't be releasing one paper. A releases one paper, B releases a different paper, C releases a different paper. That is what it means. There can be, of course, more than one paper per person, but you cannot jointly submit a paper. 5 papers were scheduled in each of the first 2 issues. So the first 2 issues are January and April in order, while 4 were scheduled in each of the last 2 issues. So we have 5 in Jan, 5 in April. That makes it 10 already. And then there were 4 in the other 2 issues. So 4 and 4 in July and October each, which makes it a total of 18 research papers for us. So we've understood everything so far until the 3rd line. Every author wrote at least 1 paper and at most 3 papers. So individual authors, they've written at least 1, they've written at most 3 papers. The total number of papers written by A, D, G, and H was double the total number of papers written by the other 4 authors. So if I directly start solving it over here itself, I know that the total number of papers by A, D, G, and H. So let me write that down for us to have an understanding. A, D, G, and H was double the total number of papers written by the other 4 authors. Who are the other 4 authors that we are left with? We have B, C, E, and F. So A, D, G, and H have written twice the papers that B, C, E, and F have written. Now this takes care of all the 8 authors that we looked for. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H. So all the authors are considered. That means, can I say that the number of papers written by A, D, G, H divided by the number of papers written by B, C, E, and F will be in the ratio 2:1. So if this ratio is 2:1, and I already know that there are a total of 18 research papers for me, can I distribute them in 2:1? So clearly, I know that this is going to be 18 is distributed in 3 times. That means this will be 12 papers, and this group must have been 6 papers. So there are a total of 12 papers that this group has published, and there are a total of 6 papers that this group has published. Now, every author can have a minimum of 1 paper. So they've written that somewhere. Every author wrote at least 1 paper and at most 3 papers. So maximum of 3 papers goes to every person. If there are 12 papers distributed within 4 people and a maximum of 3 for all of them, it means that each of them must have written 3 papers or published 3 papers. That is the only way to account for the 12 papers written by this group. So this group has written a total of 12 papers. That means each of them must have written 3. The moment I take, let's say I reduce A by 1, let's say if A has taken 2 papers, then I need someone else to take that extra paper. But I cannot have any author write more than 3 papers. That's why every author must have written or published 3 papers exactly. On the other hand, the other group has written a total of 6 papers. Now, what are the possibilities of having 6 papers? So I can have a minimum of 1 paper per head and a maximum of 3 papers per head. If I do 3 and 3, then the other authors have not written any papers. If I do B has published 3 and C has published 3, that means E and F will not be left with any paper. But we know that everyone has written at least 1, which means I cannot have 3 in this group. So my group distribution here, minimum 1 and maximum 3. Can I do 1, 1, 1, 1? No, that will give me a 4. Can I do 1, 2? That gives me 3, and then 1, 2, another 3. So that gives me a 6. That means the breakdown of this is going to be 1, 1, 2, and 2. That's the only way I will get to account for the 6 papers of this particular group. The only thing is here, since the number was the same, it did not matter who has done which one. But here, since the numbers are different, I need to be careful while understanding which person has published only 1 paper and which person has published 2 papers here. So we'll come back to that in a bit. But this is the idea about this entire line that we have over here. Let's go to the next one. 4 of the authors were from India and 2 each were from Japan and China. Okay, so there are countries given. 4 authors from India, 2 each were from Japan and from China. Each author belonged to exactly one of the 3 areas, which is manufacturing, automation, and logistics. We'll come to this again when we try and represent all this information. 4 of the authors were from logistics area and 2 were from the automation area. As per the journal policy, none of the authors could have more than 1 paper in any issue of the journal. What does that mean? If your paper is published in the January journal, you can publish only 1 paper. You cannot publish more than 1 paper in any of the issue, right? Which means, let's take, for example, A has published 3 papers. So if A has published 3 papers and a person can publish only 1 paper in a single issue, it means that A's 3 papers must have come in 3 of the 4 issues, 1 each. You cannot have more than 1 paper in each issue. So A could have issued or published 3 papers, maybe in Jan, April, July, or in Jan, July, October, or in April, July, October, or any kind of a combination. So 1 paper per issue. You cannot have more than 1 paper either. This is all the initial information itself, which told us a lot of things, which we actually just directly started solving. And then there are another set of information pieces that are given to us carrying forward as well. Now, this is going to be more specific to certain people or certain areas or certain countries. So, and certain paper numbers as well. So we'll come to that. Let's give it a read first, and then we'll see how to represent all this information that we've gathered. F, an Indian author from the logistics area, wrote only 1 paper. It was scheduled in the October issue. So first of all, F belongs to this group. And we know that somebody has written 1 for sure. So F is given a 1. That's there for sure. A was from the automation area, did not have a paper scheduled in the October issue. None of the Indian authors were from the manufacturing area, and none of the Japanese or Chinese authors were from the automation area. A and H were from different countries, but had their papers scheduled in exactly the same issues. C and E, both Chinese authors from different areas, had the same number of papers scheduled. Further, E had papers scheduled in the consecutive issues of the journal, but C did not. This actually tells us a lot, but we'll come to that in a bit again. B from the logistics area had a paper scheduled in the April issue of the journal. B and G belong to the same country. None of their papers were scheduled in the same issue of the journal. D, a Japanese author from the manufacturing area, did not have a paper scheduled in the July issue. C and H belonged to different areas. So that's all the information that we have from the set. Now, like we always do, we will go through each and every question always whenever you decide to pick up a set and solve. Make sure that you glance through the questions also to see whether they are doable or not, how lengthy would they be, etc., etc., etc. So once we've gone through the questions, which in any which case we have to solve the set for this particular in this particular. Now, as we always do, once you read through the entire set and you decide to take it up and solve it, make sure to always look at the questions that follow also to understand whether the questions are straightforward, whether they are theta questions, whether you have options for your help, or whether you'll have to solve the entire set alone. So take a look at the questions and then come back. And in any case, we have to solve this particular set for the video. So let's go ahead and directly jump into solving all this information together. So I have written down all the conditions that followed here, but we still have to write down what were the number of people and everything. So there's January, April, July, and October. These are the issues that we have to talk about. The countries are India, Japan, and China, and the areas are manufacturing, automation, and logistics. All right. Now we had some more information in the first paragraph here itself. So let's write down the number of people. We have 4 authors from India and 2 each from Japan and China. So I'll just fill that number here. We have 4 authors from India, 2 from Japan, and 2 from China. Going back, each author belonged to exactly one of the 3 areas, MAL. 4 authors were from L and 2 were from automation. So 4 from logistics, 2 from automation. That means the other 2 will be manufacturing. All right. We also know that this was a group of people. So ADGH are 3 each. So we know that there was a group ADGH, which have 3 papers published each. And then the other set of people was B, C, E, and F. F had 1, which is the first condition here itself. But let's write down the other numbers also. So I still have to fill up the 1 and the other 2 that were still remaining. So this was the filling up of the BCEF. I don't know who has which number right now, but we will come to that in a bit. B, C, E, and F had 1, 1, 2, 2 in some order. Okay, so this is the information. Also, everything else we've taken care of. There are a total of 18 research papers, at least 1, at most 3 for each of them. Let's take a look at the additional information and let's try and fill in as much as we can here. So we know that F is an Indian author from logistics. I'm going to keep writing the moment I come to know who belongs to which country or area as well. So we know that F is from India and from the logistics department and has written only 1 paper. It was scheduled in the October issue. So I'm going to give F a place in October. A was from the automation area. So A belonged to automation and did not have a paper scheduled in October. So A did not have a paper in October. I'm just crossing out A in October. So visually, I know that A cannot be in this particular line. That means A can be either here or here or here, which does not, we'll come to that again in a bit. Now, the moment I say that A is not in October, I can go back and check how many papers does A publish. A publishes 3 papers. And we also know that in every issue, you can publish only 1 paper. So if A has not published in October and A has to publish 3 papers, clearly A has a paper in April and in the July issue as well. So this is how we can infer this information about A. So A's 3 papers are accounted for. F's 1 single paper is also accounted for so far. The third statement, none of the Indian authors were from the manufacturing area. None of the Indian authors were from the manufacturing area. And none of the Japanese or Chinese authors were from the automation area. Okay, so we have to take care that Indians cannot go in the manufacturing area and Japanese and Chinese cannot go in the automation area. The fourth statement, A and H were from different countries but had their papers scheduled in exactly the same issues. Exactly the same means ditto the same issues. You cannot have a different issue for H. H also has 3 papers published, and we know that A has issues in January, April, and July. That means H would have also published in January, April, and July. So let's write down H is a January, April, as well as July. So 3 papers of H are also taken care of. A is also done and F is also done. They belong to different countries, though. We do not know where they belong. So let's keep that on hold for now. C and E, both Chinese authors. So Chinese authors are C and E. We've got a hang of both the Chinese authors. So this is done. Are from different areas. Had the same number of papers scheduled. Further, E had papers scheduled in consecutive issues of the journal, but C did not. Okay. So we have C and D, both Chinese authors. C and D are belonging to this particular group of total 6 papers. They're from different areas. Areas are here, which is fine. They had the same number of papers scheduled. So same number of papers. One is already gone, so I cannot have C and E both do 1 and 1. That means 2 and 2 have to belong to C and D. Because F has already taken 1, so there are 5 left. I cannot have 1 and 1 over here. So I'll have to have, I can't even have 1 and 3 over here because B has to be given something also. That means C and D both have 2 issues each and B has 1 issue then. Also, this can be confirmed from the fact that E has scheduled in consecutive issues. That means consecutive means one after another. So that means E himself has 2 issues. So if E has released their paper in 2 issues, then C also has released papers in 2 issues. That means each of them have 2 papers. So let's take a look at where could E have scheduled the issues. E is in consecutive issues. C's is not consecutive. That is what is more important. So if I give E January and April, then C will have to take July and October, but that will become consecutive. So E cannot be given January and April. Can I give April and July? E has to be consecutive, so one after another. If I give April and July to E, then C stays for January and October, which is totally fine. And then I cannot give July and October because then C will also be consecutive and E will also be consecutive. Which means E has definitely released their papers in April and July. And then C has released in January and October. So we have taken care of both C and E over here as well. All there is to remember is they are from different areas. So the area comes over here somewhere. Let's come back to that in a bit. B from logistics. So B is from logistics. Had a paper scheduled in the April issue of the journal. So we know B has released only 1 paper, and that was in April. So B is from April. So B is taken care of. B and G belong to the same country. None of their papers were scheduled in the same issue of the journal. B and G belong to the same country. Do we know which country do they belong to right now at the moment? Not yet. None of their papers were scheduled in the same issue of the journal. Okay, so B and G are not publishing in the same issue. G has 3 papers to submit. So G has 3 papers and it cannot be in the April issue because B is in April. Then G would have been in January, July, and October. 3 papers, so 1 each. That means let's give G here, here, and here. I think we are done with the papers because we have a total of 4, 4, 4, 4. Oh, there's 1 more left over here. Somebody else is over here as well. Okay, let's come back to this in a bit. So B and G belong to the same country. None of their papers were scheduled in the same issue, all right? B and G's country has to be the same. So whichever is in B and G will be in the same one. D, a Japanese author. So D is a Japanese author from the manufacturing area. So D is over here. Did not have any paper in the July issue. Did not have a paper in the July issue. There's only one person left to fill over here. Then it has to be D. So D comes in October because we have to make sure that all of them have submitted those papers, right? Now we know that, I think, D, a Japanese author from the manufacturing area. So D is in the manufacturing area. Did not have a paper scheduled in the July issue. So D does not belong to July. All right. And we have C and H belong to different areas. C and H belong to different areas. All right. Now, I think we'd missed out on one piece of information from the first bit, which is there were 5 papers each in the first 2 issues and 4 in the last 2 issues. So January had to make up for 5 of them. April had to make up for 5 of them. July had to make up for 4 and October for 4, which made it a total of 18 papers for us. So 10 and 8. Out of these, we've got 4 here, 4 here. We've got 4 here as well. We've got 3 in October. Let's take a look at whatever was missed out and let's see if we can place it once again. Now we know that China had 2, which is already done. If B and G have to be in the same country, they've written this. B and G belong to the same country. There's only one place left for Japan. So B and G both can't fit in Japan. That means clearly B and G have to be in India. So I'm writing down B and G for India. Now there's only 2 more people remaining. One is A and one is H to be filled up in the country. Let's take a look at which one is there. So A and H were from different countries, but had their papers scheduled in exactly the same issues. All right. Now we know that none of the Indian authors were from the manufacturing area, so there cannot be an overlap here. Let me just represent that somehow. There cannot be an overlap here. And none of the Japanese and the Chinese authors were in automation. Now, in automation, we already have A. So A cannot be either a Japanese or a Chinese national. That means A then is left to go to India alone. Japanese and Chinese people cannot be in the automation area, which means A is not from Japan, neither from China. So A is definitely in India, which then we already have placed 7 people. The 8th one is H. H will have to be a part of Japan. So we've taken care of everyone's country so far. Now, what else can we do when it comes to these bit? So we have 2 people in manufacturing. These 2 people cannot be F, B, G, and A. We have already taken D here. And so one of the other people is from H or C or E. Okay, so we know for now that we have to have 5 in January, 5 in April. July is already done. We already have 4 people in July. And October, there's 1 more person left. Coming to the countries are already done. Let's go to the areas and see if we can fill them up now. We know that marketing does not overlap with India. So Indians can't be in the manufacturing, area. In this area, which is automation, I have 2 people, out of which 1 is already found. And in logistics, I have 4 people, out of which 2 are already found. There's 1 more piece of information here in the 3rd condition, which says none of the Indian authors were from the manufacturing area, and none of the Japanese nor the Chinese were from automation. So the Japanese and the Chinese are not a part of automation. So can I find out the second person over here if Japan and China is not allowed to be in the automation area? Let's see. We have a people out of which I cannot have F is already out, B is already out, and D is already out. H, E, and C cannot be a part of A. So I am looking at the people A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, out of which we already have A in place, we have B in place, F, and D in place. And I know that Japan and China cannot be a part of automation. So I'm reducing my people to D, H, C, and E also cannot be there in automation. The only person remaining to be a partner of A in automation is going to be G. Therefore, I put in G here and I'm done with my 2 people of automation as well. Now, the other people who cannot be a part of India are already taken care of here. So A, G, F, and B. Indians are over, so there's no overlap with the manufacturing area. Let's take a look at the other 4 now. There is some information about C and H belong to different areas. So if C belongs to one area, H has to belong to a different area. And there is also about C and E. C and E, both Chinese authors from different areas. So C and E are also in different areas. We do not know yet, but we can try and find it out. If I put C in logistics, H has to be in a different area and E also has to be in a different area. There is only one place left, that is in the manufacturing department. And there is no other place then for either of them to go. One of them can be placed. So if I place C here, I can have H here. But then where does E go if E cannot be a part of the same bit as C is? Which means I cannot place C in the logistics area. So the only place left for C to be placed in the area is going to be the manufacturing sector, which means C goes to the manufacturing bit, and then H and E, since they do not belong to the area which C belongs to, the only other possibility left is for logistics, because there have to be 4 people in this particular part. So E and H can be filled up in the logistics area. So now we have filled up the manufacturing, the automation, and the logistics bit as well. The only thing remaining to fill up is this bit of the information. So we have January, 5 people. We've still not found those 5 people. Let's see who can the 5th person be. April, July, and October. Out of which July is over. Let's take a look at the read all the conditions once more, and let's see who we've missed out on. D has not been filled anywhere. So D needs to be filled. And we know that D has 3 papers. So if D has 3 papers and D cannot be in July, clearly D has to be in the other 3 places. So I know for sure D has published here, here, and here as well. D cannot be July was already mentioned in one of the conditions. So we have 5 people for January now, 5 people for April, 4 for July, and 4 for October. We've taken care of all the papers for all the issues as well. So this is our final diagram. This is our final representation of all the data that was given to us. And we're going to answer each and every question on the basis of these 3 tables that we've just filled. Let's take a look at each question one by one now. Here's question 1 for us. What is the correct sequence of number of papers written by B, C, E, and G respectively? We found this out when we were trying to solve the total number in the groups itself. So B has 1, C has 2, E has 2 as well, and G has 3. So our answer is going to be 1, 2, 2, 3, which is nothing but option A. Question number 2. How many papers were written by Indian authors? We have our Indian authors, which is F, D, G, and A. So F has written 1, B has written 1, G has written 3, and A has also written 3. So we have a total of 8 papers that are written by Indian authors. The next question is here. Which of the following statements must be true? So they have to be 100% true without a doubt. Statement A says, every issue had at least 1 paper by author or authors from each country. Every issue had each country, basically. That is what statement A says. Let's try and check. January has A, that is from India, D from Japan, C from China. Yes. So January has authors from each country. Let's go to April. April has A again, that's India. B is also India, E is China, and D is Japan. So April is also true. July has A, E, G, H. Do we have A, E, G, and H? All of them belong to different. So we have all the 3 countries here. October is F, D, C. So all the countries here as well. So statement A is definitely true. Statement A is definitely true. Let's take a look at statement 2. Statement B says every issue had at most 2 papers by authors from each area. So at most 2 papers means a maximum of 2 papers from each area. Let's take a look now. So we have at most 2 papers. So it could be either 0 or 1 or 2 from each area. So we're looking at areas now, not the countries. If we have ADCGH, ADCGH, okay, there are all the 3 areas here and at most 2, okay. ABEDH, ABED and H. Okay, we have 1 each from A and M and then 3 from L, which is fine. July says AEGH, AE, so 1 from automation, 1 from logistics. G is another from automation and H is from logistics. There's nobody from the manufacturing area in July. D and C may say there's nobody in July. That's why you cannot say that statement B is true because it says every issue has at most 2 papers by authors from each area. July does not have the manufacturing area. So statement 2 is false. Our answer will be option C, which says only statement A is true. The next question, that's question 4. Which of the following statements is false? So there are 3 correct statements here. There's 1 false. We have to pick the one that is false. Don't fall into the trap of selecting the first one if it is true. Every issue had at least 1 paper by author or authors from automation. Let's see if every issue has somebody from automation. Automation is A and G. We have A, and we have G. Yes, at least 1 paper, that is true. So A is true. It's not a false statement. Cannot be an answer. Let's take a look at B. Every issue had exactly 1 paper by a Chinese author. Exactly 1 by a Chinese author. Chinese authors are C and E. There has to be only 1 out of them from in every issue. Either C or E. This is also true. Both of them are not there in any issue. So B is also a true statement. C says every issue had exactly 2 papers by authors from logistics. So we need exactly 2 from logistics in every issue. Let's see. F, B, E, and H. We need exactly 2 of them. F, B, E, and H. F, B, E, and H. There's only 1 person in January from logistics. You need exactly 2 papers, which is not a correct answer. So this is going to be false. And hence, that's going to be the answer to which of the following statements are false. So C is definitely the answer, but let's confirm it by just taking a look at what the 4th statement also has to say. The 4th statement says, every issue had exactly 2 papers by Indian authors. So we're looking at 2 Indian authors in every issue. Indian authors are F, B, G, and A. G and A. Here we have B and A. Here we have G and A again. And here we have F and G. So there are exactly 2 authors in every issue. Therefore, D is also a true statement, so won't be an answer. Our final answer there is option number C. The 5th question, which of the following statements is false? Again, we have there are exactly 2 papers by authors from manufacturing in the July issue. Okay, very specific to July, so that helps us see one time in comparison to the previous few questions. Okay, let's take a look at July. We need exactly 2 manufacturing authors. Manufacturing are D and C. Are D and C in July? No, they are not. So this is a definitely false statement. So the answer is A for the 5th question. You may want to go ahead and check the other options when you have the spare time, but not exactly at the moment. Not exactly during the exam time. But let's take a look since we have the leisure of time over here. There were exactly 2 papers by authors from manufacturing in January. Exactly 2 manufacturing in January. Manufacturing is D and C, yes, but that is true. Exactly 1 paper by logistics in October. Exactly 1 logistics in October. F is there. B, E, H are not there, which is correct. This is also correct, a true statement. There was exactly one paper by manufacturing in April. One paper manufacturing April. A and G may say there was one person. This is also true. So A is the correct answer. That is a false statement. Which of the following is the correct sequence of number of papers by authors from automation, manufacturing, and logistics areas, respectively? Okay. So we want automation first. A and G. A and G have a total of 6. All right. So C is out. C cannot be an answer because the first one has to be automation because it says respectively. Next, we have manufacturing. Manufacturing has 2 people, D and C. D has 3, C has 2, so 5. That should be a 5. 6 and 5, the only option that we have. A is out, 6 and 5, 6 and 7 is out, so B is the answer. Let's take a look at C. Let's see if it confirms as well. That is a logistics bit. We have 6, 5, and 7. Logistics should be a total of 7 papers. F has 1, B has 1, that's 2. E has 2, so that's 4, and H has 3, so that's 7. That means our answer is option B, 6, 5, and 7. But we had got that before itself when we eliminated depending on the respectively bit over here. That is it for this particular set. I hope you enjoyed it, and make sure to keep subscribing to us and following us for more such sets every single week. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.